Hey everybody, and welcome to the Truck King YouTube channel. It's an exciting week because we've got the top dogs to compare. That of course is the Ford F-150, that's the Chevy Silverado, and we have so many things to talk about that this is gonna be a two-parter. So in this video, we're gonna go for a long drive empty and talk about which one of these trucks has better fuel economy and which one is better to drive when you're not working them. And then later in the week, we're gonna put trailers behind them, we're gonna haul payload and tell you which one works harder. So we've got a lot to cover. Make sure you stay tuned. Let's start by talking about the trucks we have here today. So this is the Chevy Silverado High Country, and we have the 3-liter inline-6 diesel that makes 277 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque, sent through a 10-speed automatic transmission. Now over here in the F-150, yes, you can get a diesel. We do not have the diesel today, it just wasn't available to us. We have the 3.5-liter EcoBoost, that's a turbocharged V6, and it makes 400 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. Now, before Ford ever brought out the diesel into the F-150, they just said EcoBoost is the answer. Going smaller and turbocharged is gonna give you good fuel economy and good power. Well, we've found that to be kind of true, and that's what we want to test out today. So we're gonna go for a long drive and see how this EcoBoost compares to that diesel. Let me now tell you why we're doing what we're doing, because it's a little bit different. So Chevrolet Canada actually gave us this truck, and then they issued a challenge to all of the journalists that are gonna test this truck. And they said, we want to see who can get the absolute best fuel economy out of that 3-liter over a 250 kilometer drive. Now, just Chevy issued that challenge to us. We just happen to have the Ford this week, so it makes sense to test them both. But really what this is about is getting the best fuel economy out of this 3-liter. That's why Dad is gonna drive the Chevy, because he is very gentle with the throttle, a little gentler than I am. And of course, when we're done, and this probably won't be for a couple weeks, we will update you on whether or not we won. But you know what? Dad is pretty good at the hypermiling thing, so I have faith in him. All right, Dad, we're just getting set to take off on our fuel economy run. So first things first, why don't you zero out that trip?
Okay.
Perfect.
So there we go.
Of course, you've got it in 2-wheel drive. That's all you want.
Yep.
And I mean, that's all you've got for fuel economy tricks. Of course, though, you're a diesel, so you should be a lot better than me. We'll have to see.
I did get a haircut this morning to cut down on wind resistance.
Okay, well, I'm heading back to my Ford now. Let's go for a drive and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And there is one thing I didn't tell Dad. Now, of course, everyone's expecting the diesel to do better, but I do have one trick up my sleeve, and that, of course, is drive modes. This F-150 does have an eco mode. It also has eco driving coaching, so it'll tell me how economical I am being. So I'm zeroing out my trip. There goes Dad. And here goes Mr. Ford. Let's see how we do. Now we're rolling down the road, and of course you're asking, well, what are the official fuel economy estimates for these two trucks? And again, not surprisingly, the diesel is better. So that Silverado diesel over there is rated at a combined average of 24 miles per gallon, whereas here in the Ford, I'm rated at 20 miles per gallon. Nothing surprising there that you're going to get a 4 mile per gallon difference going from gas to diesel. I think the bigger question is going to be, how reliable are those ratings and how close we actually get to meeting and or exceeding them. It's always a big question whether those ratings, should really be believed. We have found in our experience that with engines like EcoBoost, those ratings are usually not that close because smaller turbocharged engines tend to do well on the test, but then in the real world, you're putting your foot into them all the time, you're always into that turbo boost, and they end up sucking down more fuel. So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting again to see how they stack up to those official estimates. folks, and now here we are on the road. So I'm over here in my F-150. Dad is just ahead of me in his Silverado. And like I mentioned off the top, we are specifically trying to get the best fuel economy possible. So we are driving very gently. We're doing the speed limit. We're not being, you know, total a-holes out here and creeping along. We are doing the speed limit, but we're doing our best to be as efficient as possible. And I mentioned off the top, this is something that Dad is very proud of. He likes driving efficiently. So Dad, why don't you start off by telling us what are you doing? What tricks are you using to save fuel up there?
Well, I'm going to tell a story because the statute of limitations is run out. But as a young man, I owned a string of $100 junk cars. And one of the key things with those was that the brakes were usually pretty lousy. So I got very, very good at judging how long it would take to roll to a stop rather than having to rely on my brakes, except for, say, the last 10 feet. So I can look way ahead and know when to get off the gas to let the vehicle coast and literally come to a stop. Now, it makes the guy behind me want to kill me, but that is one of the best things you can do. Just learn to drive literally with no brakes.
Yeah, try to forget they're there altogether. Someone once described to me like a pilot, you know? You can kind of dial off a bit of speed by coasting, but you never want to brake.
Yeah, it's a waste. It's a waste of energy. You've spent energy to get to a certain speed, and then to have to hit the brakes, you're now actually trading that for heat in your brakes, and you're gaining nothing. Hence the reason why the electric vehicles use regenerative braking.
True. And so I think you said another key word there, which is speed. And, you know, this might seem obvious, but I think a lot of people underestimate how much speed plays into fuel economy. Right now, we're doing the speed limit, which is 80 kilometers an hour. But if you go from 80 to 100, the fuel economy gets much worse. And then over 100, it's exponential. It's not like it goes up on a scale. It just really, really starts to get worse and worse. So I think maybe you'd agree with me, Dad. Right around 80 kilometers an hour, which I believe is about 50 miles an hour, that's kind of right in the sweet spot usually for max efficiency.
Yeah, and there's been studies out there. Somebody could argue that it's 47.2 miles per hour, but you know what? 50 miles per hour or 80 kilometers per hour, that is definitely your fuel sweet spot. The other thing too is that you're running in usually the highest gear in your transmission. So again, an efficiency.
Yeah, so now we can talk about the trucks a little more specifically. So here in the EcoBoost, the one thing I really like is Ford actually gives you a little turbo boost gauge. So that's all I've been watching, and I'm just doing my absolute best to keep that turbo still. I do not want to work the turbo at all, because EcoBoost is famously bad once you start digging into the turbo. So that's what I'm really trying to do back here. What are you doing up there with the diesel?
Well, one of the things I'm doing, and this was really kind of caught me unawares, was I set the cruise. When we first got on the highway, I set it to 80, and we've got some fairly decent rolling hills up north of Toronto here. And I suddenly realized that the cruise was actually braking me on the downhills. It doesn't freewheel, you know, it just won't let you, it won't let you run up too far. So again, that was a waste. So after a little while, I shut it off just for the purposes of this exercise, because on a long hill, I just want to get off the accelerator and just let it coast as far as it'll go before I have to get back into it.
Exactly.
Now, another thing my truck has, Dad, is stop-start. Does your truck up there have a stop-start system?
I also have a stop-start system.
So that is actually nice. That's something that's in a lot of trucks nowadays, and that can be a 1 to 2% fuel economy gain. Because yeah, a lot of the time of driving is just spent sitting at a red light or a stop sign. So I think they're smart systems.
Yeah, and frankly, depending on where you do a lot of your driving, I've actually talked to guys who'll suggest that they're getting 4 to 5% if they're doing mostly city stop and go.
All right, Dad, so we'll revisit the fuel economy in a little bit once we're done our loops. Right now, we just need to talk more about what these trucks are like to drive. So these are basically the most luxurious trucks you can buy from both of these brands. Your Silverado is $83,000 here in Canada. My F-150 is $87,000. So these are expensive trucks, there's no doubt about that. And here in the Ford, I have no complaints. It drives beautifully, it's comfortable, it's quiet, the steering has a nice on-center feel. And then maybe the biggest thing is this Platinum is gorgeous inside. Great stitching, beautiful materials. This 12-inch screen is great. Yeah, I have no complaints driving this thing. How are you feeling in your Chevy?
Well, the first thing I want to comment on is NVH. This 3-liter diesel, it is quiet. It's just, there's no vibration. There's nothing in this truck. I dare say I could put somebody in here, and if they didn't know it was a diesel, they'd have to drive it for an hour before they'd suddenly go, you know what, is this a diesel? It really is that good. And then of course that also plays into the fact that the cabin is quiet, it's comfortable, the truck itself is well sprung, it's on center. But you know what? All new trucks today, I mean, they're really good. You have a hard time trying to find something to complain about. If there is one thing to complain about with the Chevy, it's the interior. And actually, it's not the interior. I got to be more specific. It's the screens and the electronics. That's really it, because the rest of the fit and finish is decent. I like the kind of buttons that Chevy uses and the layout, but there is no doubt that an 8-inch screen today is like, you get in and you look at it and you're just like, how old is this truck? It's that is something that you have to keep up with everybody else immediately. You can't have other guys with 12-inch screens and you're coming with your 8-inch screen. Okay, so here we are, 250 kilometers, 6.3, and get up.
That's pretty wild.
Get off of the windshield camera. There it is, folks. 250, 6.3, and if I'm really smart, I'll even try to figure out how to flip it. I don't know. 37.3 miles per gallon.
There you go. Nice.
Not bad. 37.3 miles per gallon, eh?
Yeah, and that truck is rated at 24 miles per gallon combined. So you just blew the combined rating out of the water. The fuel economy is amazing, but be honest, how annoying was it driving like that to get to...
I couldn't do this every day. Absolutely not.
Okay.
but it proves A, that it can be done, and B, that if you are a little bit mindful of your acceleration, your coasting, and not speeding, you can definitely improve your fuel economy.
And here we are in the F-150, folks. I just finished up my fuel economy loop, and there's my numbers right there. I did 250 kilometers, 8.3 liters, for 100K. Not as good as Dad, but still feels pretty impressive for the amount of power that is here in this EcoBoost. And for the US viewers, I will change over the units. That is 28.5 MPG over 155 miles. Well, folks, that is it for this video. Now, what have we proven today? Well, diesel is more efficient than gasoline. A big surprise, right? No, honestly, what I think we really have shown today is that if you focus on your fuel economy, you can definitely meet or exceed those NRCan or EPA fuel economy ratings, even in big trucks like these. Now, don't worry, we're not done with these two just yet. Because of the fuel economy challenge, we wanted to focus on driving these empty in this video, but in an upcoming video, we're gonna load them up with payload, put a trailer behind them, and work them hard. So make sure you come back here to the channel. Now, right now, don't forget to go below, hit like, hit subscribe, leave us a comment, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next. See ya.